Hello there, welcome along. This is Business Connections. Hey, we're at program 4. I didn't even believe it when we started. We'd get as far as number 2, but here we are at number 4. I hope you're fine, fit and well on this Wednesday evening. We are live. We're as live as I can be, I suppose. It's been a busy old day, actually, and it's been a lot of fun too. We've been down to Woking today, actually. We took the cameras out and we trolled down there to have a look at Woking Means Business. Great show. Tell you more about that a little bit later on. And we've got a fantastic guest for you as well tonight. Now, when it comes to sales, businesses are all about sales. There's no two ways about it. Nobody can get your product. Nobody can get the thing that you're selling. No one can get anything from you, and you can't make any money if you don't sell something. But a lot of us have this inbuilt fear of selling. So many people will go into the industry and not really understand just what selling is all about. Now, some people seem to have it, and some people seem not to have it. But maybe in the world of selling, maybe we've all got it and we just don't realise it. So we're going to be talking to our guest tonight. I'm going to introduce him right now. We'll have a word with him in a moment. It's Ben Kench. Nearly put the name around the other way there, which is easy to do. Yeah, nearly called you Ken, Ben. Now, let's just very quickly just establish who you are. You are the author of Selling for Dummies. It's one of the top selling books on sales technique, isn't it?
It is actually the largest brand of educational books in the world, and in the UK this is the #1 seller for anything to do with selling, yes.
And I mean, is that the only product that you do, or is this the product that you do?
It's the lead one because of the power of the brand, but I have another book called More Money, Less Stress, which is what a lot of people want from their business. Absolutely. And then a series of DVDs that people can have on various subjects. So,
well, it was quite amazing because I saw you earlier on today. We were actually at Woking. You were doing a presentation there. Absolutely fascinating to watch. I think what I found also very interesting was the reaction from the audience. I've seen you twice now. The first time I saw you at a Best of Guildford event. And I'm convinced that you scared some of the people that were there. But I think you've got to be a little bit scared. I mean, last week we were looking at the web, and one of the things that we said, when it comes to designing a website, don't panic. And I think there's a lot of people, when it comes to selling, they panic. And actually, it's quite an easy process because it's just about communicating.
Yeah, I think, it's conscious thought that tends to make it harder. If it's natural, unconscious thought, if you can go with the flow and take away the barriers, everyone's got it in them. Obviously, some it's more refined, some it's more rehearsed, but ultimately the blockage is a fear, which is something we can remove.
Well, I can't wait to find out your background, to find out a little bit more, and also to give our viewers a little bit of a takeaway as well, because there are a lot of different websites that are out there at the moment, and they all claim to be experts in selling. But really, from what I've heard from you, you are an expert in selling. And I'll tell you what, it's going to be well worth sticking with us for the entire hour. Now, if you are watching this on YouTube, one of the repeats, a bit like having your own, what's the name?
Dave.
Our own Dave. If you are watching it on YouTube at the moment, don't forget, do subscribe. Also, you can follow the programme on Twitter, where we'll be giving out some hints and tips all the way through the week. And also you can go to our Facebook page as well. So they're just some of the places you can go. We'd like to invite you to come along and join what is a growing community when it comes to Business Connections Live. Now, last week on the programme, we had a fantastic guest and we were talking all about websites. Paul Imrie joined me last week, and I thought it was going to be a whole evening talking about the technicalities of building a website. As it turned out to be an evening that was educational and looking at the psyche of building a website, identifying what you want your website to do, identifying where you want it to go, but probably the most important thing, identifying who you were actually talking to when you built your website and what kind of response you wanted back from them. It was a fascinating hour, and here's a little bit of a reminder of what happened last week on Business Connections Live. That we've got all the information that you need when it comes to creating, developing and talking to the right people about perhaps maybe the most important marketing tool that you have, your website.
Predominantly web design, but our customers ask us to do other things. They ask us to help us with sometimes search engine optimization or PR activities or copywriting. So we're quite flexible and try and work with our customers to achieve the best results for them. So you want to make money. So how do you make money? Well, you have to sell product. How do you sell product? You have to communicate, okay? So at the end of the day, this is all about communication. And to communicate, you need a marketing plan. And as part of that marketing plan, you have a website. It might be the biggest component of that marketing plan, or it might not. It really depends on your business. Yeah? If you're a taxi company, is the website the biggest thing, or is it clean cars? Yeah, all these things are marketing. So the point of entry, you will see that there are big buttons that clearly address each market area.
All right.
So you can see at the top end of the market, they've got
Here it comes. Right, yes.
the contractor screed. So the name says what it does on the tin. They're working on big contracts, big buildings, big sites. And then you've got the builders who are mid-market. They get the same level of service as the big guys, but without the hassle. And then finally, you've got the home market, the domestic market. And there you will see an image with nice feet, and we're not into the hard hats. It's all about how nice your home's going to be. It's a dream. But the main focus here is making it an easy experience. So you've worked hard to get someone to come to your website. Hopefully they've bought into your messages. So why would you let them down by making it difficult to contact them? So here on this particular site, we're using a very simple device. It's called a Call Me Back button. Yes, you provide the stories and the content, but you do need people like us to help and guide you to make it an effective website. And at the end of the day, the best business comes from referrals. So, you know, if you have one good customer on your list and they refer you to 10, they're actually doing the business for you, aren't you? First thing is, don't panic, okay? So if you are in a mode of panic and your thinking is not clear, the website will reflect that. So you'll have a panicky website with mumbo jumbo and jumble. So number one, get your head into the right place. Think about your business. You know your business. You're driving your business. You know where you need to go. You know what products you need to achieve. Again, CSE screening, they thought about the segmentation of their market. Mm-hmm. They knew that if they went to certain sectors of the market, they had to deliver in a certain way. Okay, so that is a business driver, business imperative. Have those things clear in your head, then you're ready to start building a website.
Interesting, you know, that actually prompted a conversation here in the studio tonight between His Lordship and myself there. I mean, that's what's so interesting about building your own website. If you are thinking about doing it, do watch that program. It's program number 3, Business Connections Live. Paul Imrie was the guy's name. All his contact details are also there. If you want to contact Paul, have a word with him. He is absolutely fascinating to talk to, but my word, what a clever bloke he is as well. So once again, our sincere thanks to Paul. And that kind of prompted our conversation, isn't it? Because you see websites as truly being a funnel, and we so often get that funnel construction wrong, don't we?
There's no doubt about it, the website is something that's a sales end, but people miss the fact that none of us are consumers' wants. Even major purchases like home improvements, we move, our circumstances change, and that development of the relationship, the connection thereafter, is often missing from web-based sales systems. Yes,
so
they
how
sell.
do you fix that then?
Well,
can we fix that?
All of us can fix anything, okay? But you have to put effort into it, and you have to be considerate of others. And the challenge is that the business pressure or the business selfish goal says, oh, well, I've got that one, on to the next. Well, actually, if we just said, I've got that one, let's go back to them and nurture them. Let's develop that relationship. That's where you spin referrals, that's where you spin the word of mouth, viral messages, and you spin the future business as well. So I endorse relationships.
And I've heard that expression before. I mean, I suppose both of us have got a background in sales, and yours, I think your job is harder. My job when I was doing shopping television and even working in the radio industry, I think that the whole element there is you never see your customer. So what you're doing is you can actually go through the ideal sell, and because you don't ever see the customer, you've got no one to interrupt you or to come up with the objections. And you're looking to bring up your own objections to hopefully satisfy what they're going to be saying. But in direct sales, when you're out there face to face, I mean, what's the hardest bit of it? What's the biggest mistake at the very top of the show? What's the biggest mistake people make?
It's a great question, because a lot of people will come to me and say, Ben, I'm all right when I'm in there. It's just getting in the door.
Yeah, once I'm there in front of them, I can sell anything.
Yeah, and in fact, I'm sure that if we pulled apart some of their stats, if in fact they kept them, they probably don't sell every time they get in there, and even the times when they do sell, they possibly don't make any margin, so they're not really selling, they're sort of delivering and not making any money. And that's one of the critical factors that small businesses miss these days. They're not really selling with any skill, so they're not building in margin. But at least if you're in the door, you've got a chance. Getting in the door is a whole different sales skill. Well, I don't say one's easier, but they're very, very necessary, both ends.
I tell you what, let's try and put some framework around what we're going to talk about. Let's go from the beginning and then slowly work our way towards the end, which is always not Mary Poppins, it was The Sound of Music, wasn't it? That's what they said was the best way to do it. Start at the beginning, end at the end. When it comes to a sales call, when it comes to actually setting the call up, where do you start? Is it, are individuals, are they natural salespeople, or is it something that anybody can do?
I don't think we're ever going to find the nature, nurture answer, because there are examples in every walk of life where somebody that possibly shouldn't be in the right environment can flourish. And one would argue that the leverage of the pain of the wrong environment is what made them flourish. Mm-hmm. Equally, someone can be in the silver spoon environment and screw it all up because they didn't have that drive or leverage. Genetics play a part, backgrounds play a part, but ultimately we probably all have the core ingredient in it is when we're born. I often use the analogy of children because I love being a parent, but it's the daddy, can I have that toy, please? Now, no. Oh, go on, can I have that toy? No. And that we've all seen often can end in tears. Oh, go on then, but shut up, So whether it's sweets or toys or ice cream.
So you've got to reduce all your customers to tears.
It helps. But the point is, instinctively, that 5-year-old child across every race understands that if it pushes a little bit, if it asks again, if it perhaps plays on that emotional heartstring, if it possibly interrupts with some other psycho of what I look like, that child at 4 or 5 instinctively does that across all backgrounds and races. So I would argue that instinctively you and I were the same, and all those that say they sell and don't sell are the same. But it's that development environment where a behaviour was encouraged or squashed that leads to the end result.
It's interesting you say that, because there was a young guy that I knew. I employed him in a particular company. He went on to be the MD of the company. He then went on to another company where he became MD. He started that company himself. After that, he then went to another company and turned it round. And then he's now with another company where he feels that maybe the entrepreneurial spirit isn't there. He finds himself pushing bits of paper around each day. But the thing that really struck me about him was that he was always selling. And I don't know whether you found that in people that you've met. Even in a conversation you'd be having with him, you nearly felt he was going for the close all the time. And you think, but there's nothing to close. I mean, do you want another glass of water? What's that water?
Shall I get you another glass?
And
it's just the phraseology.
It is, and it's very clever, because he used those techniques, and he's been very entrepreneurial. He's been very successful. So, and I'm just wondering, those techniques you can read about. We've all read the different books, that go on about, working in business and pressure, work pressures, good pressure, and there's a myriad of books out there.
Yeah.
Your book, for instance, what makes your book different then? You say it's for dummies. Is it for
dummies?
dummies?
I think that's the point, isn't it? When this brand was first brought over to the UK, one thing that struck everybody was that we don't like that word dummy because it has a different implication. And that in itself, over or exposes something that's core, and that's the language issues. So another day, or we can talk more perhaps about specifics of language, but the Dummies as a book is designed to be not basics, but complete to a degree. So you can dip in and out of that. If you say to me, Ben, I'm actually struggling, I'm going to see all these different ranges. What do I wear? Do I wear a suit? Do I carry on my best professional attitude, or are there going to be more people like?
Don't turn up in too flash a car.
So do you sell by impression and show that you got lots of money, because that sways some people? Again, I covered a bit in there, because you can go and see a farmer, or you can go and see an exec, and you should be all things to all people. there are elements of the population though that say, you know, they fake it till they make it, which is right. I can't say there is or there isn't a right way. What I can say is my belief is that we're underneath instinctive. And if you pulled up in a flash car but came out as a really nice person, you wouldn't hold the flash car against them. You'd say, well, they're nice, so what if he's got money? Now, interesting culturally, in America, they tend to respect the show of wealth. And in the UK, broadly, we tend to get a bit jealous.
Well, what's it all about then?
Yes, suspicion and jealousy. Or you're making too much money, I'm not buying from you. So you do have to be aware of cultural differences. But underneath all of that, you've got 2 people or 4 people, but you've got people. Now, if you can just be, instead of trying to be something you're not, the other person knows that. And I think it's that core, it's that energy, it's that heart, which I want to try and promote to be the overriding energy of business. Not sell, but share.
Well, I was just looking down the contents of the book here. I mean, we're looking at the likes of laying a solid foundation for selling, doing your homework before you sell a thing. I mean, I think that's really important. A little bit of prep never hurt anybody. The area I do find fascinating is the anatomy of a sale. Now, I remember when I was doing, I mean, it's interesting because, once again, when I started doing direct response TV, it was very much a case you were left alone to get on with it.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until I joined an American company that I actually went over to America and we talked there about the anatomy of the sale, the 6 steps to actually selling something.
Yes.
And it's interesting that there is a lead chapter in your book, getting, you know, it is the anatomy of the sale. So maybe what we should do is we should talk a little bit about preparation.
Yes.
Making certain you know what the customer is actually going to be wanting and maybe what his objections are going to be.
If you can.
If you can. And then work our way through the anatomy of a sell.
Yes.
And try and convince people that are watching this right now, and this could well be you, who decide that you don't care how good your product is, you don't care how wonderful it is and how life-changing it's going to be, you don't care what the benefits are that you're selling, you're going to sell it on price and you're going to sell it cheaper than anybody else. And it's the wrong way of going about running a business, let me tell you. Because I think I've been guilty of that as well in the past.
A lot of people are, yeah. They assume
selling on price.
That's the way out. It's absolutely not. All price sales angles do a trap.
Mm-hmm. All right, I'll tell you what we're going to do then. We're going to look at the anatomy of the sale in just a moment. We'll give you a few hints on how to prep before you go in and see your customer. That's all still to come on this edition of Business Connections Live. It's good to have you with us. If you're wondering who the heck we are and you've just turned on, my name's Steve Hyland. This is Ben Kench. He's my guest. He is the author of the #1 selling book, The Selling for Dummies. And here it is. Me, the book, me. It's as simple and as easy as that. If you want to get a copy of this, by the way, where can you get it?
Amazon is the one that everyone goes to, but major bookstores.
Major bookstores and Amazon if you want to get a copy. Also, we'll give you details on how to get hold of a copy on our website as well. All right, I'll tell you what we'll do right now. We'll take a bit of a breather and we'll see what's happening in the news right here on Business Connections Live. And the lovely Linda Bazant with the latest news on this edition of the programme.
And in business and technology news this week, the risk of blackouts this winter is higher than at any time over the past 6 years, National Grid has said. According to the operator of the UK's electricity network, the difference between the power being generated and estimated peak demand could fall to levels not seen since the winter of 2007-8. The continuing stalemate over the US budget has depressed shares in Europe this week. With no end in sight to the US Parliament agreeing on a funding plan for state activities, markets are lacking direction. And China has become the latest country to urge the United States to take decisive steps to avoid a debt crisis and ensure the safety of Asia's investments. Adobe has confirmed that 2.9 million customers have had private information stolen during a sophisticated cyber attack on its website. The attackers accessed encrypted customer passwords and payment card numbers, but the company does not believe decrypted debit or credit card data was removed. Adobe also revealed that it was investigating the illegal access of source code for numerous products, including Adobe Acrobat and Cold Fusion. And just when you thought Tesco had given up on world domination, they launch a tablet. You might call it the Tesco tablet. They call it the Huddle. It has all the bells and whistles you'd expect. It runs on Google's Android operating system and has access to all the downloadable applications that offers. It has a HD screen, 16 gig of memory and a camera. Surprisingly perhaps, Tesco has launched the Huddle at a higher price than its digital rival, Amazon's Kindle Fire. You'll pay £119 for a Huddle, but the Kindle Fire has recently been discounted to £99. The proportion of female directors on the board of FTSE 100 companies has risen, according to latest data from the Professional Boards Forum. Women made up 19% of FTSE 100 directors on the 1st of October, up 17.4% in May this year and 12.5% from 3 years ago. The government wants 25% of FTSE 100 directors to be female by 2015. And further good news for the UK. A sharp pickup in sales orders and hiring intentions across Britain has added to the growing weight of evidence that an economic recovery is rapidly taking hold. The barometers for activity in both services and manufacturing are pointing far fairer than 3 months ago, according to the latest snapshot from the British Chambers of Commerce. The IMF forecast that GDP would rise by 1.4% this year, up from previous expectations of only 0.9%. Oliver Blanchard, chief economist of the IMF, said he was pleasantly surprised with the UK's better than expected growth. However, as far as UK exports are concerned, HSBC has warned that the government must overhaul its model for helping businesses to trade overseas if it is to achieve its target of doubling exports by 2020. If you would like to comment on these or any other stories in the news, please contact us here at Business Connections Live.
And my thanks to Linda Bazant, and she'll be back on next week's edition of Business Connections Live. If you want to find out more about the presenters on Business Connections Live, then go to the website. There's a little bit of a write-up about everybody that appears on the programme on the site. And don't forget, if you're watching on YouTube too, please do subscribe. It's as easy as that. We'd love you to subscribe. Incidentally, a lot of people have been saying to me over the last couple of weeks, you say that the programme is going to be available on laptops and, well, let's say a brand, shall we? iPhones and iPads, and also laptops as well. I'll get a whole load of iPhones and iPads now. You watch. Apple is so generous. Well, maybe. What will be happening is next week we will be giving you the facility to actually watch it on your laptop. So perhaps if you don't want to watch it the following day on YouTube, you'll be able to watch it live on your iPad and also on your iPhone as well. And of course on other tablets which are available, as Linda said there, the brand new one from Tesco. We're going to be so busy with all these tablets. Let's look at the contents once again. So let's start at the very beginning. As I said, we're going to be looking at the process of going through the sale, but it's that preparation I think that's very important. And you said a lot of people kind of walk away from that. We were having a discussion about the fact that a glass, if I was to say to you, boy, one of the features of that glass, Mr. Sir, is that it is dishwasher proof. And you said to me,
I don't use dishwashers. I don't like the chemicals. So actually, that isn't a benefit to me.
Now, I've got to have another benefit at that point, haven't I, that's going to be personal to you. And I suppose if I did a bit of research on you, I'd have found that out, maybe. Maybe,
but actually probably not. Because that's the sort of stuff that you wouldn't get until we engaged as people. Mm-hmm. So if you were tuning in to Ben and saying, I really would like to work with Ben as a future client, then I'll put some effort into the relationship now. You'd talk to me about my likes and dislikes, and I would probably explain that I care for the planet. I'm not a big fan of chemicals, and therefore you'd probably say, so how do you feel about chemicals and dishwashers then, Ben? And I'd say, I'm not a fan. And you'd probably store that and then change the way you presented the benefits. And you might say, Ben, you know, our glasses are dishwasher proof, but I know that that's not necessarily right for you. But I think what would be right for you is that because of the surface tension They don't store a lot of dirt. They wash easily in natural fresh water.
And you don't want to be wasting your time washing all the time. You want something that's going to be easy and save you time at home.
Would that have worked with you? And yes, it does.
I'll tell you what, I'll have half a dozen. I don't know what you're selling, but I'll buy them right now. All right, so that's the preparation. It's a little bit of research into the person that you're dealing with. Obviously, the handicap is going to be that you're not going to be in a position maybe to find out personal hot buttons for them. But I suppose looking across the population in general, we're going to have a general feel. If we didn't have a general feel and that process didn't work, the likes of QVC and the other shopping channels, they wouldn't be able to sell their product because they are remotely identifying who their clientele is. They know basically who their customer is. So they can do that kind of nearly a buckshot effect and actually appeal to a broad audience.
Yeah, well, I mean, you know, I think the preparation bit, an example where that really grates us. You're sitting in your home full of replacement windows and somebody rings you up and says, do you want double glazing? Well, for God's sake, no, I've got them all. You know, so that is a complete waste of everybody's time and effort, and it irritates. So to a degree, preparing that you've got the right target audience and they use or have a potential to use what you're offering is critical. But we then break it down into simple demographics: male, female, old, young, you know, etc. Employed, unemployed. So whatever way we break it down, and hopefully the marketing has done that before it becomes a sales inquiry. The selling then picks up on, you should be in our group. Let me show you why being in our client base would be beneficial.
All right, so that's the tick then for preparation.
Yeah.
Let's look at the fundamentals of the sell. And this, people I think put off the sell. And there are different types of sell as well for that matter, but people do put them off. What's been your experience?
It's not a good one, even though I'm very proud to be in sales. The experience I've got and feedback from audience is that a lot of people don't like selling. They feel that it's pushy. They feel that the reason they don't like the salesperson is because the salesperson doesn't really care. The salesperson's really just trying to get a deal.
Yeah.
And so there's a core dislike, which I don't think is healthy, and I'd like us to change that. And then going into it a little bit more, and you examine the practice, and you see that there's still quite a lot of malpractice.
You know, it's interesting you say that about people not liking to do the sales. That is a cultural thing, isn't it?
Yes,
because
it is.
over here we do anything we can not to be called a salesman. We're sales advisors, assistants, and
account
whatever.
managers.
But yet in America it is considered to be a profession of repute. I mean, people want to have it as a career. They want to be salesmen. They want to be successful salesmen, and they like having salesmen on their business card.
Well, I think. Well, let's pull that around. What they like is the positioning that sales usually goes with higher income brackets, and it's a very materialistic society. So it tends to look up to those with wealth. It's not quite the same in the UK. We aren't as driven by pure materialism. And we are more driven by the things that we call our old-fashioned values. So we've got just a different culture there, and also the respect which you talk about. You know, I grew up in the era where the rep with the Cortina was derogatory.
I learned to drive in a Cortina.
Yeah. Nothing wrong with the Cortinas, but you know, fleet cars, reps driving selfishly. It's that whole labelling of the selfish. Don't care about me, he's out to sell.
Yep.
And actually, when we talk about malpractice, it's very rare, even today, when a salesperson comes to you and you feel that they care, you normally are aware that they are still being nice, but only because they want the order.
You're dead right. By the way, going back to the Cortina, a thought struck me. There are people watching this who probably don't even know what a Cortina is.
No, maybe not.
That's really showing our age. I tell you, let's move back to the book a little bit, because I love the structure of the book. And what I want to do is I want our viewers at home to go away with maybe a kind of a checklist, something that is useful for them. It's all very well listening to what is an interesting discussion, but what are the takeaways that we actually give them? Let's just work our ways through the sales process. Where do you start? When does the sales process start? We've done our preparation. Does it start when we pick the phone up and we give a call to book the appointment? Does it start when we walk in through the door and perhaps we do the rehearsal of our opening with the receptionist? Where does it start?
One could argue that there's a justification or a case for many of those things. But I think to be simple, marketing as a function is to get somebody who has an interest to appear on the radar. Mm-hmm. Sales as a function is to convert that interest into a paying client. So that selling process might be when one department hands over a name and number and the salesperson has to make his own appointment. And as with web technology, your process is the next stage. Mm-hmm. So you're selling the next click on a website. In the selling process of a B2B service, possibly, we're selling the chance to go in and meet them. And some sales cycles are longer than others and some are bigger ticket, etc. So they're all variable. But selling is, you're interested, I've got something I'd like you to have, now let's go through that process.
All right, so that still didn't answer the question. So we've brought the horse to water, and so the sales really is making the horse drink.
In my view, as soon as we meet,
you're selling, aren't you?
You're selling. And the structure, we talk about the process, it used to be very much chit-chat, down to facts, and then, right, now let me persuade you to have it. Mm.
Well, it's interesting because today when I saw you doing your presentation, what you said there was, you said it was, well, first of all, I've heard these expressions before, but selling the sizzle, not the sausage, and also telling a story. Yeah. And I've heard that a number of times. Yeah. A story sells. There's no two ways about it. And I love the psychology behind it. Just give us a little bit of the psychology behind the story.
Well, the interesting thing is when you pull apart how we work as animals, there is a wiring pattern which we can learn, and NLP as a science has made that a lot popular than it used to be. But we've got a word meaning, and in the head we've got a library record of that when we learned it. And so actually the word story we learn broadly as a child and specifically bedtime. So although we tend to go, oh well, it's when somebody tells you something, what it means to our body and to our wiring is, that's safe, relax. This is probably going to be entertaining as well as relaxing. So just listen. Now, as soon as that trigger word goes in and the body goes, oh, I know what it means, you're actually getting them physically to respond to your trigger. That's really, really powerful because the barrier in selling is something we got to reduce.
It's interesting because a technique that, and we talked there about NLP, and if you don't know what that is, it's neuro-linguistic programming, which isn't easy for me to say. But I mean, the whole process of it is, it's like when you're walking down a street on one particular day, and the sun is in a particular part of the sky, and there is a smell, and all of a sudden you feel an emotion, you are transported back. And what some people say you can do is that you can recapture that emotion, maybe by pinching yourself. It's called anchoring. It's a fascinating area, and it's one that we will cover on future editions of the program, because neuro-linguistic programming or NLP is a very interesting area indeed, isn't it? But it is all about, I suppose, as I was saying with the shopping TV, it is telling the story. Yes. It's making it work. It is selling that sizzle. It's selling those benefits. And it's that old thing about, imagine a kangaroo in the middle of the desert with Ayers Rock behind it, and the sun shining behind Ayers Rock, and it's beautifully warm. You can see the kangaroo. Now stop thinking about it.
Yeah.
And you can't.
And because the trigger word in that instance is massively powerful. Imagine. And as soon as you've said that word, because your brain actually knows what it means, in that nanosecond after you stop, your brain goes, right, I've got to go up to my library bank of pictures. So if you say imagine and pause, you know that their brain's going up to a library bank of pictures, and then you can paint that picture, and you use the embedded term see, which endorses pictures. It drives their brain in a specific way. That then remembers, and that's where the hook is. Yeah.
All right then. So, have we done number one yet of the sales process? Right. So that's number one. Can you just put the heading on number one again? It was.
Well, definitely preparation.
Definitely preparation. All right. Where do we go after the prep then? So we're now in with our client. We've done our prep on our client. We're in there. We're having we're beginning to converse
Yeah.
with the person that we're actually going to be selling to. And I suppose the danger is sometimes when you start doing that, you're nearly apologetic in as much as maybe sometimes you feel that they don't want what you've got.
Yeah.
And maybe you should have more confidence in your own product.
Well, you know, there's an old adage, first impressions last. And although it's proportionally a small section of maybe what could be a year-long sales process, that first impression is hard to shake off.
Mm-hmm.
And so working on that basis, the meet and greet and that first impression is a really critical part. If I or you don't like someone within a few moments, it takes a lot of getting rid of.
You know, it's called, actually, I'm beginning to sound really sad now, aren't I? But it's called micro-slicing. At that moment, everybody does it. And in fact,
Yes.
we are unconsciously aware of things
Yes.
before we become conscious of things happening.
Yes.
And once again, I suppose that's what's happening in sales. It's very easy, I would imagine, too, to switch people off subconsciously.
Yeah, and it happens all the while, and that's, you know, borderline preparation. It would be that you should. That sounds like a dictate. It's not, but good practice is to make the preparation also about: am I carrying myself right? You know, is my energy good? Do I look like I'm ready to help, or do I look like I need the money? And it's those subconscious energies. Often, as a person is selling, you can sense if they're desperate. And very often success follows those that don't really care.
Could you really sense that?
Ask the ladies.
All right. So we're looking here. We've got finding the people who we want to sell to. Going to put the glasses on because the eyes are going. That'd be the age 27. Arranging appointments that stick. That's interesting. Arranging appointments that stick. What's that mean?
Well, have you ever planned in your mind to go and have a meeting and get a sale from someone, and then actually either on the day because you didn't ring before or you ring before, and either way they say, oh, I'm sorry, Steve, I can't make our meeting on Friday. And when you study and work with a lot of salespeople, the blowout rate is actually quite high, which is depressing.
And this is why we sometimes see when meetings or seminars online are actually held, there is a commitment of money, isn't there? You know, it's going to cost you £1 or £5 to reserve your seat.
Yeah.
It's a commitment, isn't it? Okay, well that's good. So building relationships and gathering information to ensure success, we've covered. Oh wow, this is a good one. Making winning presentations. We're extending the programme now. It's going to run 2 hours, but so making winning presentations. I mean, this is classic, isn't it? This is the how many points can you get on a PowerPoint slide? Death by PowerPoint,
Isn't
we call
it?
it, don't we?
Yes.
So when it comes to doing a winning presentation, how do you approach that?
It is worth saying that if you're selling, go back to our glasses analogy, and you're selling that to a chain of smaller restaurants, it would probably be a different presentation per se than if we were selling capital plant machinery to a manufacturing rubber plant.
Mm-hmm.
But in all of those environments, the presentation should be what you want, not what I want you to have. And that really is driven by the attitude and preparation and engagement of the salesperson in the early stages. I would endorse that whilst you might have a range of things that you would like to include, your presentation should include the things that are relevant.
And can you do without the bits around you? I mean, can the presentation just be you presenting the idea, the concept, the benefits to the client, to the customer?
I'll give you a for instance. I'm working with a client that does PR.
Mm-hmm.
They are selling to large media buyers. In their world, Lovey, it is all display led.
Right.
Whether that's right or wrong, it is. So if you went in to sell to a media agency or in that Lovey world respect, you
Granted,
they would look for peacock display.
Right.
Because they put gravitas and credibility and attachment of egos and all the subtleties to that. If you were going into a garage to sell them a new hydraulic lift and you took your laptop in with lots of fancy slides, the guy with the overalls and the greasy hands would say, on your bike, son.
Haven't got time.
So
it's not right. So it's horses for courses.
absolutely has to be, yeah.
All right then. I'll tell you what. More to talk about, and we are really just truly scratching the surface here, and that's interesting. You did an hour's presentation today in Woking, and once again, that's very much a case of scratching the surface.
Yes.
But if it just makes people consider and to think, then it's worth your while doing it.
Yeah.
Did you enjoy the Woking event?
Fantastic, excellent.
I must admit, I enjoyed the Woking event as well today. We went along with the camera. Gordon Bruff, he popped along and he was did a little bit of a report for us. We did talk to a lot of people who were at the event. If you're not on this little 3-minute video, I do apologise. There is going to be a longer version of it. But it was fascinating to see people, because it was a room full of people who were selling, or at least thought they were. It was a room full of advice. There was a lot of advice going on there.
Yeah.
And there were a number of seminars as well, which were absolutely fascinating. And I sometimes wonder, when you go to events like this, maybe it's the same when you go to networking events, are you receptive? Are you open to ideas and suggestions from other people? Or are you going with a closed, fixed purpose of trying to sell your wares to somebody else? So are you just in output mode? Or are you in input mode as well? I mean, it really does matter sometimes. I tell you what, let's have a look at what did happen in Woking. And don't worry, it's not so much that it's all Surrey based, it's just that it was local to us, and we get on very nicely with the people that run it, and also the best of Guildford as well, who were there too. So let's check out what happened at Woking Means Business.
Today on Business Connections Live, we've come to Woking, where they're having a special exhibition organised by the Chamber of Commerce in Woking for small business. There's somewhere in the region of 70, 80 stallholders here, and they're all here to promote their business and network with others. This is what we found out when we spoke to some of the exhibitors today.
I'm Paul Webster. I work for Woking Chamber of Commerce, amongst other things, and I organise this Woking Means Business exhibition, which I've been doing for 10 years now.
Wow.
This is a yearly event, but then working with the best of Guildford, I run Guildford Means Business over at G Live, and that's been going for 7 years now. And we launched that as a result of this show, when somebody said to me, "You've got a great show in Woking, we could do with one like this in Guildford," and that's how that one started.
Well, this event has brought together businesses from around Woking, not just from Woking, but all around Woking, exhibiting their products and services and hoping that they'll get a lot of people coming through that they can do business with. But actually, it's also about people who already know each other, catching up with each other and, perhaps forming new alliances. So it's a really sort of friendly local business event. Well, just from a personal perspective, I've just walked around the room, probably spent about 20 minutes, and as a result of that, I've got 4 sort of activities to follow up, which will all result in either an event or a piece of business support or some other activity. So, it's really an opportunity to get face-to-face with people and make plans for the future.
My name is Ben, and I'm passionate about simply helping. Okay, so today's agenda starts with me sharing some ideas on some thoughts of selling. So, we've got a situation where you absolutely recognise that
Ben
you're
Kench.
doing selling.
Now, Ben's a good friend of mine, and he is the author of the biggest selling book on sales in the UK, Selling for Dummies. And he's a great speaker. So we've got a combination that I love in a seminar speaker, someone who can really speak and motivate people, and he knows his subject.
This is our flagship, the exhibition here. We do this once a year, and as you see, it looks pretty successful so far. Other things we do, we work with the council on various workshops for startups, and in general terms, we're there to support.
Very much. I'm really more concerned in promoting the 2 big shows that I run. So that's WokingMeansBusiness.com, and then of course in May, working with the best of Guildford, it's GuildfordMeansBusiness.com, and in fact we're launching it officially on their stand today at the show.
Fascinating time down there. There will be a longer version of that particular video there. And our thanks to the organisers of Woking Means Business today. And thank you for letting us stroll around there with a camera. I think a lot of people sometimes when they see a camera, they shy away a little bit, or they think they have to go into sell mode. Really, we were there today just to talk to you and to find out a little bit more about you. Now, this is interesting. We've had an email in. It's from Jane in Berkshire. Thank you very much, Jane, for your email. It says, how much should I expect in the balance between websites and face-to-face selling? Where should I see the majority of my business coming from? Because she says here she struggles a little bit with the face-to-face,
Yeah.
and ideally what she'd like is the website to do all the selling.
Yeah.
Wouldn't we all?
Yes.
Is that going to work, or is it for different industries and different products?
A book,
Right.
primarily, is a product that we would expect to buy from a web store.
Mm-hmm.
Prior to that, we may have been sold the concept of the book being worth purchasing, so there's been a sales process gone on, but it hasn't been personal and face-to-face. For most business-to-business services, for example, or products that are used by small businesses, then the issue is we still buy people. I could buy a printer. There's a gentleman today showing a printer, but I'm crap with manuals and doing what it says in the instruction book. You know, I don't do IKEA furniture because I get in a mess. so it's not
like dishwashers, doesn't like IKEA.
It's not about the product. It's about when I get really stressed, who can I call? And I need, and a lot of buyers like me, want the reassurance of someone as a person and a backup of a company. So you don't get that directly from a web. You can enhance the web with video, but ultimately, Jane, face-to-face. But don't go in with a, I've got to be such and such. If your business, Jane, is built around Jane, then that's the most important thing to show off. Product or service, it's underpinned by you as a person. So
I suppose it just goes back to the old adage all the time, doesn't it? People buy from people, don't
Yes.
they? And it is about a relationship. It's a strange relationship. It's not a friendship. And you must never, ever think that these people are, or your customers are, because they're there. There's something in it for them and what they want. If, however, you do get on with your customer, well, then that's just a bonus, I would imagine.
well, how about if we twisted that model around? And how about if we made it our objective to become friends? You see, if you approach it with a core that's different, you get a different outcome. And major global organisations have become major global organisations because the culture is let's work together, not at. And if all of your clients are friends, they become fans. And if they're the fans, your marketing is done and your sales development is helped because they feed back. So my humble suggestion is let's look at shifting the core into, yes, how can we be friends with all our clients?
It's a great idea. And I suppose to a certain extent, things like Twitter and Facebook have nearly taken that face-to-face friendships away, haven't they? They're
Or they've
sanitised nearly.
enhanced because whilst you and I could not meet every week or even maybe every month because of geography and drive time and children, I could probably put something about me on my social media so you feel like you know me. So the social media can enhance the connection of friendship.
I mean, you see, the thing is, that's what I love about doing this programme, because I sit here and I talk to people like yourself, and I'm quite open to have my views and my ideas and where I am changed. It is an absolute education. The danger that we've got is that we're going off in a whole load of different directions here. Let's go back to the fundamentals of the sell. So where do we get to?
The six-step process.
I'll open the book. Don't worry, there's only another, how many pages?
Oh, it's a long book.
To go in there. So making winning presentations, we spoke about. Handling client objections, that must be the bit that everybody is absolutely terrified when they're sitting there in front of the client.
Yeah.
It may have been going very well up until that point, and then all of a sudden it goes horribly wrong because he's thought of something that you haven't. What do you do then?
Well, interestingly, if you get to that point, it was going horribly wrong.
Good point. And
Because
you never-
actually, you totally missed.
Yeah.
And you were in your world, and then they raised something because you had done it badly. It was going wrong, and all they did was put a stop to it.
Have you ever seen that yourself? Has it ever happened to you?
Yeah.
What,
I mean, look,
what was the
you know,
big mistake that you made then?
In my early days, I can tell you, I was selling replacement windows, I was selling time sharing, I was selling life insurance. But I can say this, that partly because of my background and what have you, I learned at a very, very early age to read people and to listen and to ask great questions and shut up. So it happened to a very nominal amount. To go back to your point though, an objection shouldn't be dealt with when it's raised, because actually it should be dissolved before it's raised.
Yeah, very good point. It's interesting what you said there as well about the listening, because I don't think we as a nation are very good listeners.
Pardon?
Excuse me. But that is the issue that people have though, isn't it? You're there, you're giving a presentation. And I mean, there's nothing that I find worse than when I'm talking to somebody and it's constant interruptions. And I know that a lot of people do, yes, yes, I can't stand that either. I like them just to be quiet and listen to what I'm saying. I like that because then I know that you've listened, you've comprehended it, and you can come back with the answer to me.
Yes.
But we just do not listen because we're so intent in getting our point over.
That's the core. Isn't it simple?
I could do what you do. All right then. I couldn't do what he does. Having seen him today, he was very, very good. Winning the business and closing the sale. Right. The issue that a lot of people have, he says, looking over the top of his glasses, is that people are frightened to go for the close, aren't they? They're frightened to say, look, do you want it or don't you? Do you want to buy this now? If you want it now, you can have it now.
Yes.
People are frightened to do that.
Yes.
They will do anything but ask, do you want it?
Yeah, and I still come across sales teams and sales professionals where they don't actually ask for the order. Now, there's so much in that. We could talk for a day on that, but if I were to clarify into a simple, going back to what we've talked about in terms of connection, the bottom line is I would not endorse anybody selling anything to anyone if it wasn't actually good for them. Therefore, if there's a doubt, just because I could sell it to you, it would be a bit like selling pension plans for high growth investments to someone that's already 70. Honestly,
No, I can tell you now if you get away with that, very good. But well done.
Just because they would buy it, does it make it right? I don't subscribe to that.
But that's the integrity of being a salesman, isn't it, or a saleswoman?
I should say it's integrity of business.
Yeah. Okay. Same thing.
Yeah.
But a lot bigger.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
And so to go to that, you know, if I believe genuinely, and from what you've said, you believe it as well, because you've said yes, it would work there, and yes, it would work there. It's my duty to give you something that's beneficial to you, and often to twist that thinking and say, let's say an analogy. If you were ill, my friend, and I had a cure, and I said, do you want this? You said, no, I don't want it. If I cared for you, I wouldn't take that no and walk away. I'd say, no, it's good for you. This will save your life, please. And I would keep going if I cared, because that really is beneficial. So if you can embrace that as a modus operandi and do it with the I care and this is good, you actually don't get the objection because they know it's good for them.
We touched earlier on words that evoke emotions.
Yes.
So in the close, are there words to invoke a close?
Yes. It's more questions than words.
Right.
Okay. And so again, really, the goal is to be owning it from their perspective. So language embedded all the way through, such as, so when you are using our service, do you think you'd use it mostly at weekends or primarily during the day?
Now, is this the classic? So then, what colour would you like your car? Would you like a green one or a blue one? Or is your diary free? What about Thursday or Friday?
If you've got all those agreements in the conversation, actually, they want you to ask that because they say, yes, Thursday's good.
I see. And so really what you're saying is that the sell is there. You're never tricking your customer into the purchase or the buy. what you're actually doing is you're setting up this kind of this nearly like a brick wall, isn't it, that you're doing. You're building the foundations up, and then by the time you get to doing the top row of bricks, everything else is just fine. You've built the sail, and there you are, completed.
Yeah.
And once you get to the top, you've got the wall. The problems are that there are some people out there that miss out bricks or miss out rows, or they don't build it sturdily as they should do.
Yeah. I think here's a great technique. If you're selling to a business, it doesn't have quite the same connotation to the consumer sale, but to a business, that business, it has to make sales. So don't try selling, try asking, how do you sell to your customers? And ask them as the business owner, when you're selling, how do you match product to people? And when you're delivering to your customers, what are the things that you value? And as a company yourself, sir, where do you want to be remembered and positioned?
It's great technique.
And when they say, well, we don't think it's all about price, so well, actually, you're right.
In your mind, then you're doubling it.
Well, often, if they're saying to you, how much is it? And then you turn their mind into what they sell. Do you sell cheap glasses? No, we don't. We don't want the cheap market. Glasses that are cheap break. Oh, so you value the quality. Yeah. And what about if they do break accidentally? Do you have a backup? Oh, yes, our backup service, excellent. So you value delivering that, yes.
What about letting them get away? There's another friend of mine who was a European director for this, that and the other, and what he would do with his sales team, he would say to them, here's what I want you to do. When you go and you see the client, you're going to have 3 or 4 different contracts sitting in your bag, and regardless of what is said, there will be the right contract in your bag to actually close that sale. I mean, is that just a bit old hat now?
A contract in current law can be reneged upon within 7 days, for example.
Yeah.
So the essence of nailing it is a good idea, because while they're in that emotional zone, capitalise. But don't think that in itself is safety, because if you haven't done the other bits right, they'll ring up and say, I don't care what I signed, I'm not going ahead. And that isn't, any protection. So yes, be prepared, and yes, ask for a close, and yes, get it on a piece of paper. But why? Because you're a busy man, aren't you?
Yeah.
I mean, I respect that. And I do not think I want to waste any more of your time to go over the same ground. I'm always here if you have a question.
Listen, we're into our last few minutes here on this particular edition of Business Connections Live. You see it all over the internet. The top 5 selling tips, the top 5 this, that and the other. So then, if I was to say to you, Ben, what are the top 5 or 10, as many as you want, selling tips for takeaways for our viewers right now, what would you be saying to them? I mean, straight down the lens of that camera over there. If you were saying to them right now, this is their own personalised training course, these are the things that are really going to help you in your day-to-day live environment of selling, what would they be?
I promise you, number 1, stop trying to sell in an overt sales way. My first tip is to be yourself. Let you out. If you don't use the correct terminology, if you use your language instead of professional language, if you don't think you've got all those labels, so what? The core of you, why do you do what you do? Do you believe in it? Why do you go to them? Is it good for them? Why do you do what you do? That's number 1. Let you out. Okay. Second, be organised, be professional. It isn't going to give me confidence that you'll look after me after today if when you first walked in you're flustered and you've got bits missing and you've forgotten something. I'm going to think that you'll forget about me after I've bought. So be organised and make sure that you are prepared and you've got what I need. And probably the third thing, make sure that when it comes to the actual deliverability, you have tailored it for me. Because if you show me something in the close that goes against something I muted earlier, I'm going to think, well, you didn't listen. So actually, no, I'm not signing that. But if you take your time and say, actually, Ben, I've put this in here because of what you said earlier, and I've put this in here because of what you said earlier, then I'm going to go, yeah, I like that. So all those 3, but what you'll do is you'll change the dynamic from a sale buy to a let's do this together. And that's the power.
I love it. And it's a threesome as well, a little triplet there just at the end. absolutely fascinating, and we have truly only scratched the surface,
Yes,
haven't we?
yes.
It is a big industry. There's a lot of skills out there. I mean, I'd love to have you back in the future if you don't mind. If you're down south again, it was fabulous. Let's just talk a moment about this book here. It is available on Amazon, and also we'll give links as well to the book too. Hopefully, I'm talking to him about it, that you've also got some sales training
Yes.
courses that we hopefully will actually also have on our website as well. So, you know, do keep coming back to the website and checking it out. But if you do want to get a head start on your competitors, or maybe you just find the whole industry fascinating, I don't know whether you're like me, you become slightly obsessive about things sometimes. You're a salesman, be proud of it. And if you want to find out how to do it better, well, you can't go far wrong by getting hold of a copy of this book, reading it from cover to cover. And, you know, even if you disagree with some of the things that are said in there, there's going to be something inside of these pages that you're going to pick up on that will actually make your sales a little easier, a little better, a little more professional. And while we're talking about selling, listen, if you're watching this on YouTube, don't forget, do subscribe. That's important. Also, our email address. If you want to get in contact with us, just give us a call. Just get in touch with us here on our email address. We'd love to hear from you. Thanks very much to Jane in Berkshire this afternoon for actually coming through and giving us a question. Interaction is what this program is all about, and as we go on into the future, that's exactly how it's going to grow. But from all the team here this evening, and Ben, can I just thank you very much indeed for coming in. By the way, when's your next presentation, performance, whatever?
25th of this month. Oh no, 15th, 22nd, 25th and 30th. They're the next 4 events.
And where are they?
I can give you the details. The 15th is in Milton Keynes, the 22nd is in Leicester.
No pressure?
No, the 25th is in Leeds and the 30th in Manchester.
You've won £200. Congratulations. Well done for remembering. Hey, listen, it's been an absolute joy this evening. Thank you very much indeed once again for joining us. And that's your lot for tonight. We're back again next Wednesday night with Business Connections Live. We look forward. Do go to the website. Watch out. There's going to be highlights of all the different shows as well. But from me, Steve Hyland, from Ben Kench, and all the team that are here this evening producing Business Connections Live, can I say thank you very much indeed for watching. And we'll see you next Wednesday. Bye for now. Bye-bye.